you want an exposure to a market or an
Everything they need in one place.
Be the world's foremost authority on
Individuals, advisors and institutions. Hello and welcome to the Morningstar series Ask the Expert. I'm Emma Wall and I'm joined today by Jeff Stafford, Senior Equity Analyst for Morningstar. Hi Jeff.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So we've just heard you talk at the Morningstar Investment Conference about the themes within emerging market with food consumption and how these create investment opportunities. I thought perhaps you could run down for our readers the key changes in emerging market diets.
Sure. So one of the big stories of the last decade in global food and agriculture was really China. Much of the growth was driven by China. We think India and Sub-Saharan Africa will replace China as the main protagonist in this growth story going forward. On a kind of a total basis from the 5 regions that we covered, we expect incremental calories demanded over the last decade to roughly equal calories demanded over the next decade. Now that implies a lower growth rate because we're growing off a higher base, but the incremental gains in caloric consumption over the next decade will still be massive and big enough to kind of drive these big global changes within food categories. Some of the highest growth food categories we see are, for example, milk and beer. And milk in particular, because it has a very high income elasticity of demand in many of these emerging countries like China and India. So what that means is as incomes continue to increase, you get higher growth in milk consumption than you would in other food categories, say vegetables or fruits.
And this is really a play on that theme we've been hearing so much about over the last decade, the growth of the middle class in emerging markets.
Right.
And you can see direct correlation between increased household income and the increased consumption of these Western type foods.
Right, exactly. So as you move, for example, from low income to middle income, there's kind of big gains across many of these categories. As incomes improve from kind of the lowest levels, people start to eat a lot more. But even from middle income to high income, there's still growth to be had, certainly in food categories of like higher value items. Milk, as I already mentioned, there's still incremental growth in meat as we move from mid to high income. So I think there still are opportunities, even in places where in China, like China, where kind of total caloric intake may plateau, we still expect big shifts in dietary mix. So while how much China eats may not be that different going forward, what China eats will be very different going forward.
And I think you made the very interesting point that we should remember of the religious impact on these foodstuffs. So milk is a very good one, as you pointed out, because it's not restricted by the religious mix of the population, Hindu and Muslim, which restricts certain meat intake.
Right, exactly. And we see the same thing restricting beer consumption. So, if you look at our forecast for global meat consumption going forward, we see continued significant gains in China. But you compare that to India, where 95% of the population is either Hindu or Muslim, that significantly limits beef and pork consumption within the country. And we don't see much incremental demand growth in meat consumption in India at all because it is a very vegetarian society. So I think that's a great point.
So let's get to the nitty-gritty then. Where are the investment opportunities? What stocks can people get their hands on to play this theme?
Sure. So we like to highlight a couple wide moat companies in this space. Companies that I cover on the agriculture side. Those are Monsanto and Potash Corp. Both, as I said, are wide moat and both are trading for less than what we think they're worth today. So there's opportunities there for Monsanto on the biotech seed side as it continues to increase penetration in some of these emerging markets, and also for Potash Corp as global food demand continues to increase for that company to fill capacity expansion projects that it's already built and increase its revenues and profits through those filling of those expansions.
Jeff, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
This is Emma Wall for Morningstar. Thank you for watching.